wish the Democrats could have done this a lot sooner because they had this information for many months.
It's a marathon, and we're nowhere close to the end of it.
You cannot explain FEMA in 140 characters in a tweet.
Flooding and landslides from Typhoon Mangkhut have killed at least 66 people in the Philippines, and rescue crews are still pulling bodies from a shelter that was buried in a landslide. Now a tropical storm, Mangkhut is traveling across southern China, where it's killed at least 4 more people and forced 2.4 million people to evacuate. Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has promised citizenship to Afghan refugees born on Pakistani soil. Khan's announcement is a stark turnaround for the government, which 2 years ago forced hundreds of thousands of Afghan refugees to go back to Afghanistan.
आप अमेरिका में पैदा होते हैं, आपको अमेरिकन पासपोर्ट मिलता है। हर दुनिया में मुल्क में होता है। यहाँ हम क्यों नहीं इन लोगों से इतना जुल्म करते हैं? ये इंसान है।
Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Turkish counterpart, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, agreed to create a buffer zone in Idlib, Syria's last major rebel-held area. As part of the deal, rebel forces will surrender their heavy weapons, and Syria won't carry out their planned offensive on the province. Idlib is close to the Turkish border, and a full-scale assault would likely lead to another wave of refugees pouring in. For the first time, a Cuban president has endorsed legalizing same-sex marriage. President Miguel Diaz-Canel made the comments on Venezuelan TV while discussing the country's ongoing constitutional reform process.
De reconocer el matrimonio entre personas sin limitación responde a un problema de eliminar cualquier tipo de discriminación a la sociedad.
Top Republicans trying to put out the wildfire ripping through Brett Kavanaugh's nomination to the Supreme Court had 2 main messages today. The first was that the timing of Christine Blasey Ford's allegations suggests that this is a Democratic plot to derail the nomination.
I wish the Democrats could have done this a lot sooner because they had this information for many months and they shouldn't have waited till literally the last days. They should have done it a lot sooner.
But tellingly, the other message was acceptance that they're going to have to hear Ford out. And it looks like that could happen in a Judiciary Committee hearing a week from today. As you probably know by now, Ford told the Washington Post that back when they were both teenagers, Kavanaugh assaulted her at a party, pinning her down on a bed and forcibly stopping her from screaming. Kavanaugh has vehemently denied the charges. And the White House released a statement saying, quote, Judge Kavanaugh looks forward to a hearing where he can clear his name of this false allegation. That hearing, though, could look a lot like this.
Senator, I would like to start by saying unequivocally, uncategorically, that I deny each and every single allegation against me today. This today is a travesty.
That snippet is from the last-minute hearings of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, when Anita Hill accused him of sexual harassment in 1991.
My working relationship became even more strained when Judge Thomas began to use work situations to discuss sex. After a brief discussion of work, he would turn the conversation to a discussion of sexual matters. His conversations were very vivid.
There are a lot of parallels between how the Thomas confirmation played out and how Kavanaugh's is going now. Like Kavanaugh, Thomas had already had his first round of hearings. Anita Hill contacted Congress during that time, like Ford did, and neither woman wanted to go public. On September 27, 1991, the Judiciary Committee voted Thomas out without endorsing him, and members already had the FBI's report on the Hill charges in hand.
It's a favorable report. Mr. Thomas to the Senate fails on a 7-7 vote.
But it wasn't until October 6th that Hill's story was on the front page. And by October 11th, 1991, both Thomas and Hill were in front of the Judiciary Committee for a second round. It got contentious.
This is a circus. It's a national disgrace. And from my standpoint, as a Black American, as far as I'm concerned, it is a high-tech lynching for uppity Blacks who in any way deign to think for themselves.
The full Senate confirmed Thomas the next week.
To be Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court is hereby confirmed.
I ended up voting for Clarence Thomas after struggling with it. But to this day, I don't know who was telling the truth.
Former Republican Senator Larry Pressler said the situation around recalling Thomas to testify was complicated.
Well, I wouldn't have been in favor of reopening the hearings. I think we should have considered the material. And as soon as it was discovered that it's not provable one way or another, there's no point in going on in anguish in another dramatic public hearing. But even if they hold a hearing, and even if they decided that this lady is or isn't telling the truth, there will be another person, or there'll be something else about Judge Kavanaugh's background that will come forward.
But there are some big differences between 1991 and now. One of the reasons why the Senate didn't end up giving a lot of credence to Anita Hill is that in 1991, sexual harassment wasn't even a topic that most people were comfortable even acknowledging, much less discussing in vivid detail as part of someone's vetting for high office. Now, of course, consent and sexual violence are incredibly important topics in public life. And that's going to put intense pressure on Republicans to give Ford the opportunity to tell her story, and just as important, defend her from character attacks. Even Trump advisor Kellyanne Conway has said Ford, quote, should not be insulted or ignored, she should be heard. There's another big difference too. Back in 1991, there were just two women in the Senate. Today there are 23, and two of those women, Republicans Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, are swing votes who could determine Kavanaugh's fate.
How's everybody doing? All right. Everybody enjoying all the news articles at night? You letting it get to you? Not getting to me. Let's push through. It's a bunch of crap going on, all right?
FEMA Administrator Brock Long had his own crisis to deal with as Hurricane Florence hit the Carolinas.
I'm not going anywhere. All right? We are a team. Am I clear? Sure. We are a team. Let's concentrate on these people. All right? Sure.
Today, a congressional panel asked Long to provide documents related to any time he may have used a government car for a personal trip. Over the weekend, he fended off questions about his travel and addressed tweets from his boss, President Trump, about the U.S. response to Hurricane Maria.
We live in a fast food news society. People read a salacious headline. You cannot explain FEMA in 140 characters in a tweet. And so therefore, there are some unrealistic expectations placed on this agency.
One of those unrealistic expectations is that FEMA manages storm response from top to bottom. In reality, they help local agencies prepare by bringing in manpower and supplies. And they fill in the gaps when help is needed. As Hurricane Florence gathered strength last week, local agencies prepared for the calls to come in.
This is what a hurricane looks like when it touches down in North Carolina, about 50 miles north of the center of the storm. And these are the people who respond to it. This is the Onslow County Emergency Operations Center, and this is the Situation Room, where they address the biggest problems.
I will tell everyone, daylight is here. So we can have an expectation that the phones are going to get much busier.
The disaster response here has less to do with four-letter federal acronyms and more to do with local officials doing their best with limited resources.
If she does have another seizure, just give us a call back immediately on 911, okay?
Right next door to the Situation Room is the 911 Dispatch Center.
Since Wednesday morning, we've had approximately 2,200 calls.
How much sleep have you gotten?
Probably a couple hours.
Back in the Situation Room, county heads in charge of everything from dispatching ambulances to setting up shelters work together.
Why is it important that you get all of these county employees in one room in a situation like this?
Each one has specific and unique skill sets and talents. We have a finance and logistics table, and we have our public safety table. These are the folks that know how to launch a mission to go out and recover someone in rising waters. Then the shelter staff. You put all of those pieces in one room communicating.
Once other emergency responders are out in the field, Onslow County calls in its Swift Water Rescue Team. They're a specialized unit equipped to deal with rapid flooding. Initially, they're sent out to save a pregnant woman from her flooded home.
There is a first responder on scene with them.
Okay.
And if we can't get any further in, he's going to load her up and bring her to us.
But they get redirected to help fill in at a volunteer fire department that's only manned by one person. The Swiftwater Rescue Team works through the night, supporting first responders.
We're good.
Streets have turned into rivers so deep, traditional emergency vehicles can't get through. Onslow County is overextended. This is where they call in for the federal government support, but they don't go through FEMA. Onslow County is home to Camp Lejeune, so they reach out directly, and the Marines bring manpower and trucks that handle heavy flooding. When the weather begins to improve in Onslow County, the mission changes.
One good piece of news we can start out with. The clouds have cleared and the sun is shining in Onslow County today. That doesn't mean that we still don't have dangerous situations out there.
And this is when FEMA really steps in.
The next few days, it is going to be a transition to recovery. We anticipate that FEMA and state agencies will come to the community and start pushing out information. But I could say easily it's going to be maybe 12 to 24 months, and that may be optimistic because a lot of folks are going to be coming back to total loss.
Forecasters say the worst flooding in North Carolina is still ahead, as record rainfall from the weekend moves downstream, river by river. About 70 miles northwest of Wilmington, the town of Lumberton sits on the Lumber River, and people there know its power. 2 years ago, Hurricane Matthew flooded homes across the county, one of the poorest in the state. Still, faced with a new storm, some in Lumberton chose to wait it out where they were.
Just pull it tight. Yeah, I think you got it. I've been here now since 1975, in this same place. You know, from 75 until 2016, you never really, I never thought about flooding. But today, that's one of the first things that comes to my mind.
If you know from experience that your house can flood, because it has flooded,
yes.
Why did you decide to stay?
Because today I think we are more prepared for this flooding. Okay, well, let's do this. So we as a family are going to be right here. See, it's standing right here, and it's going up under that. Oh, yeah, I got the scissors. This morning we woke up, we had light. About 8, no lights. So now we know. We'll probably be out of lights until next week sometime. Or it could be longer. Don't even expect for them to come on.
This is 107.7 JAM's continuous coverage of Hurricane Florence. Stay connected at 910-323-5477.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this food. Thank you for protecting us. And we just thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
What we're trying to do is build a containment wall of concrete barriers, dirt, sandbags to hold back the waters that we know are going to try and come through here with the river level that they're telling us we're going to have.
It's now late Saturday afternoon. It's been raining since late Thursday night. How does it look at the moment?
The river is rising very rapidly, much more rapidly than anybody thought. We're anticipating that it was going to kind of top out tomorrow night. It looks like that's probably going to happen earlier in the day tomorrow.
How do you feel about your ability to stop water from coming over and flooding the city like it did before?
Mother Nature is Mother Nature. If it blows it out, we've made all the preparations that we can for it to not be as bad as Matthew.
My thing is in the morning, when the water's here and it starts seeping in, then will we be able to get anywhere? You know what I mean? Like now we're safe, we're fine, everything's good, even though the rest of the city is in turmoil.
Now, Mom, what you think? It's your call. If you want to go, we can take Callie.
I would go to Gerald if we could get in those roads. They say if you're going, you got to go.
I mean, we have about 15 minutes to make a decision.
It's Sunday morning, and we got word that the family ended up deciding to evacuate to a relative's place nearby. We're on our way right now to go see how they're doing. You said you weren't going to leave. What made you decide to leave?
Well, the law.
What do you mean?
They told us that we had a mandatory evacuation.
Are you worried about going back to the home?
I'm just...
What you might find?
Yeah, Yeah, basically, because you don't know what you might find.
When do you think you're going to end up back at your house?
I want to say this week.
I came here to check on the Lumber River. It's what floods homes in Lumberton when there are major storms like Hurricane Matthew, like Hurricane Florence. It starts to have minor flooding at 13 feet, major flooding at 19 feet. It's at 24 right now, and it's expected to be at 26 by tomorrow morning. The levee protections that were put up by Corey and the team at Public Works have already broken, and the levee has almost broken too. Do you have a sense of how much of Lumberton is flooded right now?
Probably around a third of Lumberton is flooded at the moment. The river's forecast to stay at this level of flooding for almost another week. It's a marathon, and we're nowhere close to the end of it. A lot of people left after Matthew. There's going to be even more people leaving after this, I think.
So, we did sandbag this door. I don't know if it did us any good or not. Yeah, this smell is bad. There's anything down here on this floor has got to go. I don't know what all this mess is. All this got to go.
Well, what would it take for you to leave this house if this keeps happening?
Oh my God. I don't think we were leaving. Get the water out, start over.
In June, a federal judge ended the Trump administration's practice of separating children from their parents at the border and ordered that all families be reunited. 2 months after the court-ordered deadline, more than 200 families are still separated. For many, it's because the parents had already been deported without their kids. The ACLU, which brought the original lawsuit, has been given the legal mandate to work with the government to carry out reunifications. 2 weeks ago, the lead attorney on the case went down to Guatemala, where most of the deported parents are from, to gauge the progress.
In the 24 hours I've been here, I'm understanding a little bit about how difficult it is to get to the parents, that the parents understandably are not immediately trusting us because we're essentially cold calling them.
In Central America, the bulk of the work has fallen to a couple dozen local lawyers.
A nivel de Guatemala, habemos 10 abogados que estamos colaborando en esta búsqueda de los padres deportados. Buenos días, les saluda Lica Haroldo Palacios de aquí de Huehuetenango.
Haroldo Palacios is a lawyer and notary public. Typically, his has been a desk job, mostly involving local civil cases. But 2 months ago, his caseload changed.
Aproximadamente tenía yo entendido que en Huehuetenango había 120 casos de padres deportados y que de alguna manera no se habían reunificado con sus hijos. Gracias. Bueno.
These days, Palacios spends a lot of his time on buses, traveling to rural villages, knocking on doors.
¿A qué hora se irá? La mesía está. Hasta el momento, un aproximado de unos 20 padres he logrado localizar y encontrar en Huehuetenango, teniendo en cuenta que el territorio es bastante grande. Un segundo momento es conocer de los propios padres directamente cuál es su voluntad, si desean que sus hijos vengan a Guatemala o quieren que se queden allá. El día de hoy tenía planificado realizar una visita de seguimiento a uno de los casos que hace 20 días había tenido la oportunidad de entrevistar. ¿Qué ha sabido de su hijo?
Eso, y a veces hemos llamado para allá, pero no entra la llamada. O sea, solo timbra, pero no levantan el teléfono.
One father, who asked that we conceal his face and not use his last name, crossed into the U.S. with his son in May, at the start of the zero-tolerance immigration policy. His son was taken from him during their second day in detention and put in a shelter in Chicago.
¿Cuántos años tiene su hijo?
Tiene 12 años. A mí cuando me dijeron que iban a separar a mi hijo, cuando íbamos a ser deportados, me dijeron de que se iba a venir mi hijo conmigo. O sea, con engaños me quitaron a mi hijo. Yo nunca pensé que la papelería que yo estaba firmando era la deportación.
¿Y el tiempo que su hijo lleva allá entonces? ¿Cuánto?
Lleva como 4 meses ya él de estar ahí castigado.
¿Usted desea que venga su hijo lo más pronto posible?
Es lo que la familia quiere, puede que mi hijo regrese, que no se va a quedar allá porque no hay quien por él allá, pues.
¿Algún trabajador del gobierno de allá de los Estados Unidos o abogado, alguien le ha llamado, le ha dicho?
Cuando muy vine aquí, como a los 8 días, sí me llamó un señor de Estados Unidos. Nada más me dijo que quería que le depositara $2,000 y mi hijo iba a salir lo más antes posible. Yo lo que hice fue le corté la llamada porque con lo que se mira aquí en la frontera me dio miedo.
¿No se identificó nombre y si era parte de alguna institución o algo?
No me dijo nada.
Yo solamente soy un contacto inicial en principio también, pero sí hay algunas personas allá en Estados Unidos, abogados, que en algún momento pueden dar una opinión también de su caso. Entonces nos vemos ahí, estamos en comunicación, cualquier cosa ahí por teléfono nos comunicamos. Nos vemos. Bueno.
Palacios relayed Eric's request to get his son back to ACLU lawyers in the U.S. Last week, after more than 4 months of Eric being separated from his son, the U.S. government sent the child home to his family in Guatemala. But according to the latest data, at least 150 children whose parents have been deported are still stuck in shelters in the U.S.
Hey, I'm Georgia Knott.
And I'm Caleb Knott.
And we're Broods. Our song Peach is basically about the highs and lows of being an erratic, emotional person.
Changes very drastically.
And the production kind of follows that theme as well. We started with this little Casio keyboard.
An SK1. It looks like a little kid's toy. And you'll recognize it from other songs, I think, as well, because it's pretty like an iconic kind of synth sound. Like most producers, when they hear it, they're like,
Stop. Is that the SK1? The beat is definitely signature Caleb, just like lots of shit going on at the same time. It
doesn't make sense. He brought about 100 toms and just set them all up and just did these huge, obnoxious, very obnoxious fills.
Yeah, and we're like, yes, we're using all of them.
I'm high and I'm low, no control, but everything's looking peach.
What we did is we stepped down the whole song, like 3 semitones, and then recorded it and then pitched it up. So it kind of sounds like a 6-year-old Georgia. The piano, I would say it's kind of like a Robbie Williams vibe.
Yeah, Robbie Williams, like twangy, stabby piano.
He just has a very specific like piano tone and rhythm in the piano that is like ding, ding, ding.
I think it's Let Me Entertain You would probably be like da 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 da.
Hell is gone and heaven's here. There's nothing left for you to fear. Shake your ass, come over here. Now scream.
So I don't really know what it feels like, oh, 'cause everything's at the beach now.
Our mum and dad's taste has really influenced this this next album.
There's a synth that we use in the post-chorus.
And it's so satisfying. So after the everything's at the beach now.
There it goes.
It kind of like feels like when the roller coaster starts and you're like, whenever we listen to the song, I think we feel all the things that we like want to feel when we're listening to music. It's got the yelling and the bang bang.
Hectic.
It's hectic. It's very erratic. But you know, so are we.